Welcome, traveler. Out of all mythical and legendary creatures of Irish and other Celtic folklore, banshees are certainly among the most feared. At present, a lot would recognize them as the unsightly and wrathful, hag-like spirits whose screams are enough to terrify some people to death. However, that modern interpretation of banshees is actually, more or less, off the mark, as it barely covers the rich history behind the lore. A narrative that is rooted in both mythology and real life. Are you ready to know the truth behind the shrieking omens of death? The word banshee first appeared in the late 17th century. It comes from the Irish bean sea, derived from the Old Irish bean side, meaning woman of the fairy mound. You see, the Irish countryside is dotted with ancient burial mounds, also known as tumuli, and these barrows were considered sacred by the people and were even believed to be an important link between the real world and the fairy world. This, so the story goes, technically makes banshees a class of fairies. Though scholars would still argue about the origin of banshees, it is generally regarded that the earliest appearance of their story dates as far back as the 8th century, in age-old Gaelic legends, as well as in a few Norman literatures of that time. However, contrary to our now common belief that banshees are dangerous and dreadful beings, a belief that was, in some ways, fostered by the horror genre and pop culture, banshees of the original lore were actually benevolent, for the most part. They did not cause death, rather they deliver the news that someone from a certain family has died, or is about to die, and that, perhaps, makes them a supernatural creature that you would want on your side, because they could help you, and your loved ones, prepare for the inevitable. In the original lore, banshees appear as young and beautiful maidens, singing a song that, instead of being frightening, is actually hauntingly tragic. And this is because the stories claim that banshees are ancestors of the dying person, mourning the impending doom that even she cannot prevent. It is sometimes said that sorrowful banshee song can only be heard by the person for whom it is intended. And when someone hears this message of death, they must immediately warn their family, for banshees are known to not only be looking out for a single person, but rather the whole clan they belong to. Although, not every family has a banshee of its own. Since banshees are believed to be a part of a certain family's ancestry, people don't just become banshees. It is likely an inherited gift, or curse, depending on how you perceive it. A thing that is only passed down to the spirits of women in the lineage. In theory, that is how a banshee is made. But in reality, banshees are created from interweaving strands of history and belief in the supernatural. It is evident even from the way the screams of banshees are named. Caoin in English means keening. Keening is an old Irish and Celtic tradition, with traces to as early as the 7th century, in which disheveled women, known as keeners, would wail and sing in lamentation at funerals. Sounds like banshees, yes? Well, in addition, keening used to be a sacred social practice in the olden times. However, only upper-class families could afford to employ keeners during wakes. That could explain why not all families have banshees, and, by the same token, why the appearance of several banshees at a single time was believed to indicate the passing of someone great or powerful. That said, banshees have always been floating in the gray area of reality and fiction, of life and death, and now of a past story about the piercing cries we will continue to warn our future about. Thank you for joining us on this journey into darkness. My name is Sid Myers. Welcome to Lore Thrill. If you'd like to learn more about banshees or ghosts in general, visit us at lorethrill.com. Sleep tight.